It was a cold, cloudy morning in Manchester. Emily was getting ready to leave her small flat. She worked in an office where she answered phone calls and sent emails all day. It was not her dream job, but it paid just enough to cover her bills. That morning, like many others, she was running late. She had spent too much time looking for her other shoe. As she finally found it under the sofa and tried to put it on, someone knocked at her door. This was strange. She usually heard the old lift moving or footsteps on the stairs when someone came. Today, there had been no sound at all. She almost fell as she stood up quickly, trying to balance on one foot while pulling on her shoe. On the floor near the door, there was a pile of unopened letters. Most were probably bills or letters asking for money. Emily sighed. She knew she should open them, but she always waited. It was easier to pretend the bills didn't exist. I can't be late again, she thought. This would be the third time she was late to work in 1 month. Her boss, Mr. Wallace, had already warned her. If she was late again, there could be serious consequences. As he liked to say in his deep, serious voice. The knock came again. Emily hurried to the door, hoping it was just a neighbor asking for something simple like sugar or milk. As she opened the door, she tried to smile. She wanted her smile to say, "I'd love to chat, but I really can't right now." A tall man stood there. He wore a dark grey suit that looked expensive but old-fashioned. His hair was very black and neat. His face was pale, and he smiled as if he knew her well. "And how are you today, Emily?" he asked kindly. "I hope you are well. If not, I bring you warmth and best wishes from the leader of my company." Emily's smile disappeared. She felt cold. How does he know my name? She wondered. Before she could speak, the man continued. "You may ask how I know you. Well, that is easy. I am the leader of my company. We know many people, and you are one of the special ones." Emily stepped back a little. She was not afraid, but this was becoming strange. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I can't talk. I'm late for work." "Time," the man said with a sad sigh. "That is what everyone wants. More time. Or sometimes, more happiness. Which would you like more of, Emily?" Emily frowned. She thought this must be some kind of street seller, or someone trying to play a joke. "Listen, really," she said, trying to close the door a little. "I'm not interested. Sorry. But we have a special offer today," the man said quickly. "You can have 25 extra years of life in exchange for eternity. Or, if you prefer, you can double your happiness for the same price." "Price?" Emily repeated. She didn't understand. "There are no hidden charges," the man explained. "We simply take everything you have. Forever." Emily stared at him. She thought it was ridiculous. Why is he wasting my time with this stupid joke? She thought. "Fine," she replied, trying to play along for just a moment. "Then I want 50 extra years, or 4 times more happiness." The man nodded seriously. "Oh, you could choose that. But after 25 years, the quality of the extra years becomes lower. I would recommend choosing happiness." Without asking, he pressed the button for the lift. Of course, he knew she would be going down. It was morning, and Emily was wearing her office clothes. A second-hand suit she had bought from a charity shop. She carried a handbag that looked smart, but only held a few sandwiches and a bottle of water. She never had important papers to carry, like some of her better-paid colleagues. One day, Emily thought, "I'll find a job that I'm good at and that pays well." Sometimes, Emily felt like her older sister Sophie was the only person in the family who had good luck. Sophie owned a successful company that made eco-friendly cleaning products. She was married to Daniel, a doctor who was not only clever, but also kind and funny. The only thing wrong with Daniel, Emily often joked, was that he didn't have a twin brother for her to marry. Even the story of how Sophie met Daniel sounded like something from a romantic film. A few years ago, after many bad days and little disasters, Sophie had a terrible car accident. At first, the doctors told her she might never walk again. Emily remembered feeling sick with fear when she first heard the news. But then, at the hospital, a new doctor named Daniel started working there. With his help, Sophie was walking again after only a few weeks. Daniel had worked so hard and always smiled, even on the worst days. Later, he joked that no one had known how talented he was until he met Sophie. 2 months after she was walking again, he had asked her to marry him. 6 months after the accident, Sophie started her company. Now, Sophie and Daniel lived in a beautiful house in the most expensive part of Manchester. They had 2 lovely daughters, Grace and Hannah. Emily loved visiting her nieces, playing with them in the park, and helping them with homework. Grace loved art, and Hannah wanted to be a dancer. Of course, Emily was happy for Sophie. She loved her sister dearly. But sometimes, when she saw Sophie's big house, happy marriage, and 2 healthy children, Emily felt unlucky. She wondered if she would ever have good fortune of her own. Some people get all the luck, she often thought, though she never said it aloud. As Emily stood near the lift, remembering all this, she thought again about what the strange man had said. Time or happiness? It was impossible to know what might happen in the future. What if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? She thought suddenly. It was a dark thought, but it crossed her mind anyway. As if he had read her thoughts, the man spoke again. Then your perfect life would only last 1 day. Time or happiness? I can only offer one. Miracles are not part of my work. Another company does those. Emily frowned and pressed the lift button herself. The lift was not moving at all. Well, maybe you should change jobs, she said, trying to make a joke. No, he replied seriously. I tried working for them. Their sales team has a different offer. A hard life now, then happiness forever. Some people like that idea, but honestly, it's much harder to sell. The lift stayed still. Emily sighed. She would have to take the stairs, or she would be even later. As she turned towards the stairs, something suddenly came to her mind. She stopped, her heart sinking. Oh no, she said aloud. Grace and Hannah. Their birthday presents were still sitting on the kitchen table. She had promised to bring them today, and now there was no time to go back and get them. It's time you want, isn't it, Emily? I always know. The man called after her. I don't believe these silly things you're saying, and I don't have time to talk to you, she shouted. As she hurried towards the stairs, Emily rushed down the stairs. She was already very late. As she hurried, she told herself not to think about the man and his strange words. She had more important things to worry about, like her job and the disappointed faces of her nieces when she arrived without their birthday gifts. But as she reached the next floor, she heard the man's voice again. You need more time, Emily. I can help. She didn't answer. She was out of breath and angry. She had no patience for strange men who pretended to sell time and happiness. She kept moving, holding onto the handrail so she wouldn't trip. Then she stopped suddenly. The man had somehow appeared right in front of her. He wasn't walking. He was sliding down the shiny metal banister, his legs crossed as if he was sitting in the air. His arms were crossed too, and he smiled calmly. Emily felt the wall behind her. She stepped back and held onto it for support. She realized now that he was not a normal man at all. Aha, he said softly. You want happiness instead? Emily shook her head and started walking down again quickly. I'm happy enough, thank you, she said. Her voice was strong, though her heart was beating fast. The man easily kept up with her. He continued sliding down the banister, always staying close. He didn't seem to care that she was trying to avoid him. Are you happy, Emily? he asked. His voice was calm and kind, but it made her nervous. Of course, your job is not bad. You don't mind that the pay is low. You don't mind that your boss dislikes you, because you're always late. And you always manage to pay your rent, just like you usually do. Emily's face grew hot. You can't know that, she shouted. And anyway, money doesn't buy happiness. True, Emily. Very true, he agreed, nodding. It's love that makes the world go round. Exactly, she said, feeling a little braver. Just ignore him, she thought. 5 more floors to go. I'm sure one day you'll meet someone, the man continued. I don't need a man to be happy, Emily said quickly. So if that's all you're offering, no thank you. You are so clever, Emily, the man said with a smile. Very few people understand that happiness comes from inside us, not from things we can buy or from other people. You are smarter than many of our customers. Emily did not answer. She just kept walking, faster now. 25 extra years then, he said softly. I can see it in you, Emily. You would not waste them. Emily stopped on the next landing. But 25 more than what? She asked, frowning. No, the man replied, wagging his finger. I cannot tell you how long your life is. We used to tell people, but it didn't work. When people know how long they will live, they stop enjoying their lives. I don't believe in any of this, Emily said. Or in you. The man jumped lightly off the banister and stood in front of her. He held up something small and white between his fingers. Your sister didn't believe either, he said quietly. Not until after her accident. Emily's eyes grew wide. How do you... He handed her the small white object. It was a simple business card. On the front, it had only a name, a phone number, and the words, time or happiness, your choice. Then, before she could say another word, the man disappeared. He didn't walk away. He simply wasn't there anymore. Emily stood alone on the stairs, breathing hard, the card shaking in her hand. Her mouth was open in shock. Emily stood very still. The cold metal of the business card felt heavy in her hand. Even though it was light, she turned it over and over, hoping to find more information, but there was nothing else. Just a name, a phone number, and the strange message. Time or happiness, your choice. Her heart was beating fast. How did he know about Sophie's accident? She thought. Hardly anyone at her office even knew about it. Sophie did not like to talk about that terrible time. She only spoke about it with family. Emily took a deep breath and looked around. The stairs were empty. There was no sign of the man. She even leaned over the railing to see the floors above and below, but he was gone. Maybe I imagined him, she thought. Maybe I'm so tired and stressed that I'm seeing things. But when she looked at the card again, she knew that was not true. The card was real. She could feel it between her fingers. She began walking down the stairs again, more slowly this time. Her mind was full of thoughts. He knew my name. He knew about my job. He even knew that I had forgotten Grace and Hannah's presence. And he knew about Sophie's accident. The memory of that time came back clearly. Sophie's accident had been one of the worst moments of Emily's life. Sophie had always been strong, smart, and full of energy. When the doctors said she might never walk again, it had felt like a bad dream. Emily had stayed by her side at the hospital every day after work. She had brought books, music, and funny stories to keep Sophie's spirits up. But deep inside, she had been very afraid. What would happen if Sophie couldn't walk again? How would she care for herself? How would she enjoy life? Then Dr. Daniel had arrived. He was new at the hospital, young but very confident. At first, Emily had thought he was just trying to give them hope. But slowly, he had proved that he truly wanted to help. He had worked with Sophie every day. He had taught her exercises, given her encouragement, and even found new treatments that other doctors had not considered. After only a few weeks, Sophie had surprised everyone by standing up again. Emily could still remember the day Sophie took her first few steps. She and Daniel had cried happy tears together. That was the start of Sophie's new life. Not long after, Daniel asked her to marry him. Their wedding was small, but beautiful. 6 months after the accident, Sophie had started her company, determined to do something good with her second chance at life. Now Sophie and Daniel had their big house, 2 daughters, and everything seemed perfect. But what if that man had something to do with Sophie's recovery? Emily wondered now. Is that possible? Could he have helped her? The idea made her feel cold and uneasy. She did not believe in magic or strange powers. She believed in hard work and in good people like Daniel. But still, the man's words stayed in her mind. Your sister didn't believe either. Not until after her accident. When Emily finally reached the ground floor, she paused by the front door of the building. Outside, the streets of Manchester were busy as usual. Cars and buses passed by. People hurried along the pavement, talking on phones or drinking coffee. Everything looked normal. But my life is not normal today, Emily thought. She looked at the card again. Time or happiness, your choice. Her first thought was to throw it away. She did not want anything from that strange man or his company, but something stopped her. What if I do need more time? She thought sadly. I'm always late. I never have enough hours in the day. And happiness? Well, it's been a long time since I felt truly happy. She put the card into her pocket and stepped outside. Emily hurried down the busy street, but her mind was not on where she was going. She could not stop thinking about the strange man and the card in her pocket. The cold wind blew against her face, but she hardly noticed it. I can't believe this is happening, she thought. It feels like a dream or a trick. As she crossed the road, she kept looking around, half expecting to see the man again. But there were only normal people, an old woman walking her dog, a group of students laughing, a man selling newspapers. Nobody paid her any attention. Soon, Emily arrived at the tall office building where she worked. She pushed open the glass door and stepped inside. The warm air felt nice after the cold street. She checked her watch. Late again. At the front desk, the security guard, Mr. Patel, looked up and smiled kindly. Running behind again, Emily? She gave a small smile. Yes, the buses were slow today. It was a lie. The bus had been on time, but she didn't want to explain about the man at her door, the strange offer, or the mysterious business card. Mr. Patel nodded and went back to his computer. Emily walked quickly to the lift. This time, the lift was working. She pressed the button and waited. As she stood there, she thought about what the man had said. Time or happiness? I can only offer one. Miracles are not part of my work. Another company does those. She frowned. What did he mean by another company? Was he joking about heaven or something else? The lift doors opened. Emily stepped inside and pressed the button for the 7th floor. As the lift rose, she looked at her reflection in the shiny metal wall. Her brown hair was a little messy from rushing. Her second-hand suit didn't fit perfectly. No wonder Mr. Wallace doesn't think I look professional, she thought sadly. When the lift doors opened again, Emily hurried to her desk. Her co-workers were already busy, typing, talking on the phone, and writing notes. Her friend Lucy gave her a quick wave. Rough morning, she whispered. You have no idea, Emily whispered back. She sat down and turned on her computer. As the screen lit up, she remembered something important, the girls' presents. Grace and Hannah's birthday presents were still sitting on her kitchen table. She had promised Sophie she would bring them today. The family was meeting for dinner at Sophie's house after work. Now she would have to go empty-handed. Emily sighed deeply. I need more time, she thought again. That man was right about that. She tried to focus on her work, but it was impossible. She kept thinking about the strange man, his offer, and the card in her pocket. Every few minutes, she touched her jacket to feel if the card was still there. At lunchtime, she sat with Lucy in the break room. "Emily, you seem worried. Is everything okay?" Lucy asked. Emily wanted to tell her, but how could she explain something so strange? Lucy would never believe it. "I'm just tired," Emily said, "and I forgot the birthday presents for my nieces." "That's not so bad. You can give them tomorrow," Lucy said kindly. Emily smiled weakly, but she knew it wasn't that simple. She felt as if something big was happening, something she didn't understand yet. "Maybe I should call the number on the card," she thought, "just to ask questions. I don't have to agree to anything." But another part of her mind was afraid. What if calling makes things worse? What if this is dangerous? The rest of the day passed slowly. Emily tried to do her work, but she made mistakes. She typed the wrong numbers and forgot to answer emails. Mr. Wallace noticed. He frowned at her, but didn't say anything. She knew a warning letter would probably appear on her desk tomorrow. Finally, the workday ended. Emily gathered her things and left the office. Outside, the sky was darkening. It was only late afternoon, but the winter days were short. She stood still for a moment, not sure what to do next. Should I go straight to Sophie's house? Should I stop at home first and get the presents? Or should I call the number? Her hand moved to her pocket and touched the card again. "Time or happiness? Your choice." The words repeated in her mind like a song she couldn't forget. Emily decided to go home first. She would get the presents for Grace and Hannah. She felt bad enough for being late to work. She didn't want to arrive at the birthday dinner empty-handed as well. As she walked, the city lights started to come on. The tall buildings and busy streets looked normal. But Emily felt like her whole world had changed since the morning. When she reached her flat, she climbed the stairs slowly. She half expected to see the strange man waiting by her door again, but the hallway was empty. Inside, the flat was quiet. She picked up the wrapped presents from the kitchen table. They were simple gifts, art supplies for Grace, and a pink scarf for Hannah. "They'll love these," Emily thought, even if they're late. She glanced at the small pile of unopened letters near the door. Bills. She didn't have the energy to open them now. Her coat still hung by the door. She reached into the pocket and took out the white card. She held it in both hands and looked at it closely again. "Time or happiness? Your choice." The phone number was printed below. She read it twice, then 3 times. Twice. Her hand shook a little as she picked up her mobile phone. Just one call, she told herself, just to ask questions. I don't have to agree to anything. She dialed the number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered. "Good evening, Emily," said a calm, smooth voice. It was the same man. Emily froze. She hadn't even said her name. I just want to ask some questions," she said quickly. "I'm not agreeing to anything." "Of course," the man replied. "I am always happy to answer questions." Emily took a deep breath. "First, how did you know about my sister's accident?" There was a short silence. Then the man said, "We help people when they need it most. Your sister did not believe at first, just like you. But after her accident, she changed her mind." Emily felt her stomach twist. "Are you saying Sophie made a deal with you?" "She chose happiness," the man said simply. Emily thought of Sophie's fast recovery, her perfect marriage, her successful company. Could it all be because of this man? "No," Emily said firmly. "Sophie worked hard. She had good doctors. She made her own future." "Of course she did," the man replied. "We only open doors. People still have to walk through them themselves." Emily swallowed hard. "What do you mean by everything I have?" "If you choose our offer, we take everything you have after your life ends. The man explained, your time, your energy, your spirit. But in return, you will receive what you choose, time or happiness, while you are alive. It sounded like a story from a book. She almost laughed, but something deep inside stopped her. It can't be true, she thought. But what if it is? And what if I say no? She asked. Then nothing changes. You continue your life as it is now, the man said calmly. You keep rushing. You keep worrying. You keep hoping for luck. Emily felt a tear slip down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. I'm not ready to decide, she whispered. You don't have to, the man said. The choice is always yours. But remember, time moves forward. Opportunities do not wait forever. Then the line went silent. Emily pulled the phone away from her ear. The call had ended. She looked at the screen. There was no number, no record of the call. Just like he disappeared this morning, she thought. No trace at all. She placed the card back into her pocket, picked up the presents, and left the flat. Emily took the bus to Sophie's house. She sat near the window, holding the birthday presents tightly on her lap. The sky outside was now dark, and the city lights reflected on the glass. She watched people walking quickly along the pavements. They all looked busy, like her, always rushing from one place to another. Time, she thought. We all want more of it. The bus ride felt long. Emily's mind was full of questions. She thought about Sophie and the man's strange words. Had Sophie really made a deal with him? Or was this all some kind of trick? Finally, the bus stopped near Sophie's neighborhood. The houses here were large and beautiful. Sophie and Daniel lived in a house with a big garden and bright windows. Warm light shone from the living room. Emily could hear children's laughter inside. She took a deep breath and walked to the door. Before she could knock, the door opened. Grace and Hannah stood there, smiling brightly. Auntie Emily! They shouted together. Emily smiled and hugged them. Happy birthday, my darlings. I'm sorry I'm late. She handed them the presents. The girls took the gifts happily and ran inside to open them. Sophie appeared at the door, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. She smiled warmly. Come in, Emily. We're just finishing dinner. Emily followed her into the big kitchen. The table was set with plates, glasses, and a cake in the center. Daniel waved hello from his seat. Rough day, he asked kindly. You could say that, Emily replied with a small smile. They sat down together. The family chatted and laughed. Grace showed her new art supplies, and Hannah wrapped her new scarf around her shoulders, pretending to be a princess. For a little while, Emily forgot about the strange man and the business card. She enjoyed being with her family. But later, when the children were playing in the next room, Emily found herself alone with Sophie. They sat on the sofa with cups of tea. Emily hesitated for a moment, then spoke. Sophie, can I ask you something? Of course, Sophie said. What is it? Emily took the card from her pocket and handed it to her sister. Do you know anything about this? She asked softly. Sophie took the card and looked at it. Her face changed. She grew pale and serious. Where did you get this? She asked. A man came to my flat this morning. He gave it to me. He said you made a choice once. After your accident, Sophie didn't answer at first. She stared at the card, her hands shaking slightly. Finally, she nodded. Yes, I know this card. Emily's heart raced. So it's true. You made a deal. Sophie looked into her eyes. After the accident, I was scared. The doctors told me I might never walk again. I thought my life was over. Then this man appeared. He offered me happiness, or time. I didn't believe him at first, but I was desperate. I chose happiness. Emily sat very still. So, everything that happened after, the recovery, the company, Daniel, was because of him. Sophie shook her head. No, he opened a door, but I had to walk through it. Daniel helped me. I worked hard to build the company, but the choice gave me the chance to change my life. Emily felt cold. And now he's come to me. Sophie reached out and held her hand. You don't have to choose. It's your life. You must decide what you want most. Emily nodded slowly. I'm not sure what I want. I thought I wanted more time. But maybe happiness is more important. Sophie squeezed her hand. Whatever you decide, I'll be here for you. Emily smiled, though her mind was still full of questions. That night, as she lay in bed, she kept thinking about the man's offer. Time or happiness? Your choice. The next morning, Emily woke up early. She had not slept much. All night, her mind had gone in circles, thinking about the strange man, Sophie's story, and the choice she had to make. The card was still on her bedside table. She picked it up and looked at it again. The words were simple but powerful. Time or happiness? Your choice. Emily thought about her life. She had never been very lucky. She had always worked hard, but never seemed to move forward. She wanted a better job. She wanted to travel. She wanted to feel less tired, less rushed, and less worried. Is that happiness? Or is that time? She wondered. She got ready for work slowly. She put on her best clothes, a simple but neat blouse and trousers. She tied her hair back carefully. As she left her flat, she noticed the pile of unopened letters again. She sighed and picked them up. She stuffed them into her bag. Later. I'll deal with them later, she promised herself. On the bus, she didn't read or listen to music like she usually did. She just stared out the window, watching the city pass by. When she arrived at work, everything felt the same. The busy office, the ringing phones, the sound of typing. But Emily felt different. She felt like she was standing at the edge of something important. At lunchtime, she sat outside in a small park. She watched children playing and birds flying above. She took out the card and held it in her hands. Suddenly, the air grew cooler. She looked up. The man was standing a few steps away. He wore the same grey suit. His black hair was perfectly neat. His eyes were calm. Good afternoon, Emily, he said. Have you made your choice? Emily stood up. Her heart was beating fast, but she spoke clearly. I have some questions first. Of course. The man nodded politely. If I choose happiness, what happens? She asked. You will feel at peace. You will enjoy your days more. You will worry less. Life will not be perfect, but it will feel brighter, he explained. And if I choose time, you will have 25 extra years to live, years to do as you wish. But after those years, your time will be fully ours. Emily thought hard. She looked around the park, the people, the trees, the sky. She thought about Sophie, Grace, Hannah. She thought about the future she wanted. Finally, she looked back at the man. I choose happiness. The man smiled softly. A wise choice. He handed her a small, silver coin. It was warm in her hand. This is a token of your choice. You will feel the change soon. Emily opened her mouth to ask another question, but the man was already gone. He had disappeared again, as quickly as before. She looked down at the coin. On one side, it said, happiness. On the other side, your choice. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt calm.